Everybody ready?
Yes. Will all of you stand like I have a strong voice? There are two verses to our alma mater, but since the words are not on the program, we will sing the first verse twice. Stephen Lee, dear Stephen Lee,
under all the realms of revelation than the incarnation of your Son, the Christ. thank you. And God, we are so appreciative for memory. Memory is a precious gift. And Master, we have come because we have remembered how you blessed this place, this castle on the hill. But thank you, God, for those that have put in so much time, putting together facts and information that is so rich in history throughout our great section. Thank you for each of them. But Master, thank you for all of us that have gathered to say thank you for this place. And for those that resided here, gave so much of their time, their education and their experiences to lift up so many students, Afro-American students, and we can say together, thank you. Thank you for everything. We pray this prayer in your name. Let all of us say amen.
Amen.
One of our friends in North Carolina home, Stephen Lee, Alumni Association, is with us tonight. He's been a friend, and we want to ask him if he would light a candle. Thomas, would you light a candle for all of those that couldn't have been with us, but they're not with us today? Thomas called it Mountain Express, and so he's in training. Thank you very much. Now, how did we get here? And how did I get here? I got here one day. I walked into my house about 35 years ago, and I heard some noise in the kitchen. And in that kitchen were two ladies. My wife had invited the Shaw alumni group to come over to gather up and to start to form a meeting association. Now, there were two Stephen Lee teachers in that group. And as I walked in with smelling like a plant and trying to figure out how to get, walking into my kitchen, and then I walked around to the dining room, and there stood this little short, dark-skinned lady named Miss Farney. And then there was another lady at the table, and that lady was Miss Harriet Lee. They were forming the Shaw University Alumni Association and getting themselves together. Now, how did I get here? Well, I went to an alumni meeting one day, and there stood Bonnie Hurt, James King, all of those members. And so it didn't take me long for me to hear those famous words, Stevens Lee. And in fact, they looked at me and sort of said, "Do you go to Stevens Lee?" No, I did not. But that was their way of introducing me to who they were. And they've been with me. No, I did not graduate from Stevens Lee. I did not attend Stevens Lee. But Stevens Lee faculty and teachers have been with me since the day I arrived in Asheville. I went to get a haircut. And there was a Stevens Lee man with the clippers. A couple of years ago, 1992 to be exact, I invited the President of the United States to my house. Guess who was the first person I called? A Stevens Lee grad, Mr. Otis Sherrill. I said, "What do I do? How do I handle this?" He just simply looked at me and said, "He's in your house, right?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, he's in your house, and you're not in the White House. He's in your house." And all down through those years, I got to know Steve was the graduates faculty. When I was my Sunday school teacher, who looked at me one day and says, "It's your class. It's your class." So I've been, Stephen's League has been all over me from February 15th, 1983. And finally, last, I had to come over here. And I said, "Where is Stephen's League?" Somebody said, "It's over on the hill." And I made my way over to Stephen's League and walked through here. And as I walked through this building, the ancestors were called. I knew that a lot of ancestors had been through this building. I didn't know all of them, but they're here now. They're above us. They're all around us. And they're saying, "Thank you." And one of the things they also tell us is, "Thank you for listening to what we're talking." And one of the stories I quickly give you is that when D.A. Young, which was Mr. Stevens Lee, Mr. A&T, Mr. Asheville, he went over to, in the Army, went over to Germany. And he had, someone had, Stevens Lee had taught him the Greek alphabet. And he's going down the hall just repeating those alphabets. And some Greek soldiers walked out of the hallway and basically said, "You know Greek?" He said, No, I'm just quoting the alphabet." "No, do you know Greek?" Next thing you know, he said he's in the room with him, having a good time. But that was what one of the powers of Stevens League taught. It taught you how to go any place in the world, in this country, anywhere. That's what they were all about. Now that's how I got here. How did you get here? And why are you here? As we go through this program, one of the things is that we're going to learn that what was so unique about Stevens League, and in particular, what was unique about this faculty over here, and what did they bring to the table? We're going through this program. Hold on, because you are about to hear things you've never heard before. Hold on, because you are about to witness. There may be some tears in you. There may be some shouting. There will be plenty of affirmation about what those teachers are all about. Now, I don't want you to get too far out there, because remember, this is a tribute to the teachers. But I think when you tell about the teachers, you're telling about yourself, because of who they were. Now, I don't know what we're going to do with this information once we finish with it. But I know what I'm going to do with it. I'm getting in my car, driving 450 miles east of here, go to my high school, and say, "Let's get started. Let's get this project started." I got an example of how to do it. I just got to find a librarian like Zoe who's willing to spend 2 years. So we're going to do some quick introduction to let you program flow on, but I just want to let you know how I got here. I just didn't show up. God sent me here for this purpose, to highlight faculty, Stevens League, along with everybody. Now, just before we get to Zoe coming up and Joe, North Carolina Road, raise your hand. Friends of North Carolina, stand up, raise your hand.
Come on.
Martin Luther King Association, people associated with Martin Luther King Association, stand up. Asheville Parks and Rec allows us to use it. Anybody here from Asheville Parks and Rec? Now express. here was stood right here on this wall out here.
Okay.
I looked at the pictures and everything. Well, thank God Zoe did. Because when Zoe stood out there, and she's going to tell you more about it, she asked one simple question. Where did they go? And it was on them. Every day I went to the library, and Zoe was digging in some archives, looking at some information, trying to find some things, asking me about people. I know more about Stevens Lee than I would ever know. Most of you know. Even though I didn't know you because she was always probing and asking all kinds of questions. So Zoe, come tell us how you got here. Zoe Rhine.
Thank each of you for being here. It really means a lot to me. Would you please stand a minute? My best buddy, Joe, cohort in all things history. You probably all have noticed that both Joe and I are white. Because of Joe's Irish kinfolk, he's more white than I am. I want to answer a question that may be in a lot of your heads, which is why we did this research. And the answer is very simple. It's because it needed done. To tell you where I come from and how I got here, I was born and raised in the Portage Lakes in Akron, Ohio. And my mother's, how do you say that? Maternal line, thank you. Was from the Forty Creek area that's now under Fontana Lake. And when her people had to get out of town, they went to Silva, Bryson City, and Asheville. So in the summers, when I was growing up, my family would often come to Asheville and stay with relatives we have here, so I knew it well. My mother's family story is kind of a ping pong story. When her mother, first chance she could, she left with the Great Migration north to work in the tire industries in Akron. And she met my mother's father there, and they had great paying jobs, but when the Depression hit, they, with my 3-year-old mother and my grandmother pregnant, moved back to western North Carolina and settled on a farm my grandfather had bought from a settlement with the railroad. He lost both his legs in an accident. And so my mother grew up on a farm in Whittier. And then when her mother died, when my mother was 16, guess what she did? She got on a bus during the middle of the night and ran away to Akron, Ohio. So that's where I was raised, and I ping-ponged us all back here. And in 1976, I moved to Asheville after I graduated high school, and I graduated from Formosa College, and been here ever since. Let's see. I wanted to, I guess we need the lights up here. I want to just take a minute to show you the North Carolina Rose Special Collection. Are we on the right one? Okay, are they on the screen where I can see them another? I'm so sorry. Can you make the one? I'm very sorry for this. One for days. remember to write it down because it's on the bookmark you all should take home with you. And at the very top of here is a keyword search, so you can put dogs in there and bring up all of our pictures with dogs in it. You could do a better search by, there's an advanced search right there, and a drop down will give you facilities, geographic, everything you can look up specific that's already in our database. And the main reason I wanted to show you this is, see at the bottom left there, you'll see this section, which is finding aids to our African American collections, right on the front page. And they're all clickable links that will take you right to those collections. The interviews that we've done with Stevens Lee alumni are right there at the top, as are the Stevens Lee High School annuals that we've been scanning. We scanned all the ones we had, we scanned all the runs the alumni road has. A lot of people have loaned us theirs to scan. There's a list to the left of the water fountain with the years highlighted yellow that we don't have. If you have any of those years, please load them to us long enough to scan it, and then it'll be preserving it and sharing it with the public. Just also wanted to mention that on our main page, there's a clip that will take you right to our blog that we write local history, weekly local history posts on. We've done quite a few on Stevens Lee and the Black community. You can just type in Stevens Lee and it'll take you to those stories. So we also have an event page. This is one of the blogs. This is the one Joe Newman actually wrote to just show you what you're saying. That's just the top of the page to give you a sense of what they look like. You can also just browse our African American photograph collection, and you might find an image such as this one, which was taken in the 70s in Montford, mid-70s, when the Montford community was very nicely integrated. And this picture I thought you'd enjoy. You probably haven't seen it before. It was taken by Anthony Lord, who was an architect and was the trustee and board chairman of the Asheville Library, and he's who all the SCORE students met and talked with when they were working to integrate PAC Library. Great picture. Joe.
Ready? I got my water just in time. Give me just a moment to get set up and I'll be right. Is everybody okay tonight? Yes. Good. All right. Now, go ahead. Go ahead.
I failed to tell you my main point, which is how I got to this research, which was in April of 2017. Several North Carolina Room staff members and board members took the Hood Hunters tour, and at the end of it, we ended up at the Stevens Lee Center out front, and Barton was holding his mother's Stevens Lee annual in front of him, and he started telling us about how exceptional the faculty were that taught here, how they all had, a lot of them had master's degrees and they were highly educated, and he also told us that faculty from Columbia Teachers College would come to Asheville, and that they really inspired the faculty to get further education. And then we came down the hallway and we were standing looking at the faculty pictures right across the way, and one of our board members, Lynn Wilson, was looking at them and said, "My God, I wonder what happened to these people after integration." And right there were the two questions I needed to know. How well educated were these people, and what did happen to them after integration? And I worked in the North Carolina room for over 27 years. I knew that that information was not pulled together in our collection or any other collection I knew of. And I knew, because of how long I worked there, how important it was to the history of Asheville to be documented. So I've loved every minute of it, and I'm not done yet. I'm going to...
Thank you, Zoe.
Zoe is a gift to the city. And she and I have worked together on this project. I've been at it for about a year and a half, Zoe longer than that. And we have gotten so close, we call each other brother and sister. So, and I'm an only child, so that's a learning curve for me. I want to first acquaint you in a little bit of depth, some depth, with 3 Stevens Lee faculty members. And you can see the picture of the first one. If you're an alumnus, I know you remember her. Eleanor Martin Foster. Miss Foster was born in 1908. Now, that's a long time ago, but that's the generation of a number of the teachers you'll be looking at tonight with me. And she grew up right here in the East End and Valley Street neighborhood. Her father was a tailor. The family worshipped at St. Matthias, very close to here, up on the hill near Stevens Lee, and she knew this community. She loved it. Now this woman was bright. She was serious. She was academic, history teacher. I'm sure she was that way as a student, and she certainly was that way as a teacher. She came across her students as very scholarly and very careful and meticulous. Well, a little bit we know about her student life. She was able to attend Howard University, which at that time, along with Fisk, was kind of vying for the position of top, we call them historically black colleges and universities in the country. So she attended Howard for a bachelor's degree and then stayed on to get the master's degree. I think that's a real accomplishment. She got her degrees in the late 20s. Later, she earned a master's degree at Teachers College, Columbia University. And Zoe has already mentioned Teachers College. The Teachers College connection is something that Zoe and I took some care to try to figure out. Why in the world would an Ivy League school's college of education, and it was the top in the country at that time too, why would it pay attention to Asheville, North Carolina? Well, we found some answers. Ms. Foster taught history for at least 37 years in the Asheville schools. She began her career about 1934. She moved to South French Broad High School when Stevens Lee closed in 1965, and she retired from Asheville High in 1971. So there's our first teacher. She spent 2 years at the integrated school, Asheville High School, and then retired. But if you think she was ducking out, she had been here almost 40 years in the classroom. So a lot of teachers of that generation, it seems to us, chose retirement after they got the flavor of Asheville High School. We can't go inside their minds. There are some interviews we can look at. This woman is someone I've come to respect in this research. And I'll have to tell you, this is Joe Rhine's favorite teacher, okay? I'll tell you mine in just a minute, but isn't that okay to say you have a favorite teacher? I mean, all of you have a favorite teacher. And we didn't get to meet these fine folks, but this is Zoe's favorite. Now, she was one of the senior teachers, as I've mentioned several times, when she was toward the end of her career. And she came across, we know, to her students as kind of old school. You know, she was a woman of the old school, and she carried herself with that kind of bearing. If you look at her photographs, the one on the left is a good one. And if you look at just the way she looks in the photo on the right, you can tell she cared a bit about her appearance. She was from the school where, the old school, where you dressed for work every day and you were sharp and you looked good, and that was part of your statement as a teacher and as a black person. She was both. Oralene Simmons, who's going to be on our panel tonight, has a great story to tell you about a library assignment that Ms. Foster gave her. That's something that Oralene shared with us, and I'm glad she's going to share it with you. Another former student, Deborah Collington, we interviewed as part of our alumni interviews, and she said this about Mrs. Foster. She was my history teacher, an elegant lady. I like that word, an elegant lady, who was one of the best teachers I ever had. You know, elegant, gosh, you know, what a wonderful word, and one of the best teachers ever. Well, as I mentioned, she carried herself with a certain dignity and bearing, and she deserved to. As her obituary stated in 1999, she was the first African-American woman in Asheville to earn a master's degree. What about that? What about that? All right, Zoe, I need your support. Wonderful day. You should have flipped through those while I was talking. All right. We may not have as many pictures of Miss Forney, but she's in your mind if you knew her. And I got jealous when Roy told me he had the pleasure of meeting her. I'd give anything to have met. Well, she's my favorite teacher, okay? Right? You know, Zoe, Miss Foster, and I picked Gladys Pierce Forney.
Yes.
Now, Miss Forney was born in Brunswick County, North Carolina. She was not in Asheville native. And she was from a different generation from most of the other teachers in the school. She was born in 1928, and if you remember, Miss Foster was born in 1908. Miss Forney went to college at Shaw University over in Raleigh. I think it was Shaw College at the time. And then to the University of Illinois for her master's degree. She moved to Asheville in 1953 for the job. She moved here to teach sociology and history at Stevens Lee, and her teaching gave her numerous opportunities to immerse her students in Black history and Black culture. May I invite the members of the panel, if they so choose, to tell us, especially in that area, what their memories are, what kind of teaching did Ms. Forney do that acquainted students with Black history and Black culture. We know that went on at Stevens Lee, but if you have a recollection to share when you're on the panel or if you're in the audience tonight, please feel free to do that. She was reassigned to South French Broad after Stevens Lee closed, and then she taught at Asheville High School. Now listen to this, 1969 to 1989. That's half of her, well, that's more than half of her teaching career. That's the majority of her teaching career. You could say this woman was comfortable in an integrated setting. In fact, she thrived in that setting. She was known as the strongest advocate of making integration work, certainly among the African American teachers who went to Stevens Lee, and probably who went to Asheville High, and probably in the whole school. She stood out as the woman who believed in integration. She believed it was right. She saw the problems, but she was dedicated to solving those problems. That's the kind of person she was. Now, maybe you can almost tell there, she was small in stature. I've heard people say 5'2", okay? Short one. I see people with some memories, right? But on the other hand, she was large. She was a large presence in the classroom. She commanded respect because, for one thing, she was a role model for her students. As her former student, Deborah Collington, said, I think about some of the things Ms. Forney taught us. And listen to this. the way she kept herself. She had a pride for being African American, for being black, that really left a mark. I would often think about that. Now, Miss Forney, once again, 20 years younger than Miss Foster, was from a different generation. Oralene Simmons told us, Oralene helped us plan this whole program tonight, and in a conversation we had in one of our meetings, she said Miss Forney was like a big sister to her. And I think that's just great to have that kind of relationship with a teacher. True believer in integration. She helped found the Asheville Buncombe Community Relations Council and received the Human Rights Award in 1983. Quite an accomplishment. And among all of the teachers in the 1964 Stevens Lee Yearbook, and that's where we got our photographs mostly from, and that was the focus, so we could narrow down the years somewhat. Of all the teachers in that 64 yearbook, Miss Forney was mentioned as often as any other teacher in those alumni interviews that we did. All right. You remember Don? He's somebody I wish I had met. I'm not much of a musician, but I try, and I would enjoy getting to know this gentleman. Stevens Lee's famous band director. He was born in 1907 in Greenville, Georgia. My home state is Georgia, as a matter of fact. And he attended Morristown College in East Tennessee, which no longer exists. I bet just about everybody in here knows where Morristown is. It's a small place over in East Tennessee. He moved to the mountains from Georgia, and then he wound up at Stevens Lee teaching, stayed in the mountains. He received his master's degree from Wilberforce University in Ohio, another fine historically black university, and Ohio State, and he also did graduate work, here comes again, at several universities, including Teachers College, Columbia. So, trying to build the suspense here. How did all these teachers get up to New York City? Who paid for it? What made all that possible? He came to Stevens Lee, this gentleman, in 1941, and taught there until the school closed in 65. Had a 25-year career directing an all-star band. I mean, if you were in this region, you knew about that band. If you were probably across the state, because his band was in competitions all the way across the state, you knew about Doc Lennon. I have the pleasure of interviewing Gary McDaniel. Is Gary here tonight? Before I quote him, well, I wish he were. He's a minister here now. He retired from the city of Asheville. And his big experience in high school was being in Doc Lennon's band. And he would tell you, well, these are Gary's words. He said, if you were a band member, you had to be there. In this room, that's across the hall, now the alumni room. I interviewed him there in that room. To rehearse every day and also on Saturdays. I mean, think about that. You got to be pretty serious to be in Doc Lennon's band. And he said you had to learn to read the music. Now, the Christmas parades that Doc Lennon's bands played in turned out to be the highlight of the highlight of Gary's high school career. He said, these are Gary's words, in our Christmas parade, they had to take the band and put the band after Santa Claus. Santa Claus had to go first and then the band, because if we came before Santa Claus, then people were going to follow the band. We had certain areas downtown where we would stop and do our performance. When we got to the stadium and went through the gate, the crowd would get into a roar, almost like a president or somebody coming in. I got an image of that. Now, former student Willie Mae Brown told us about the human side of Doc. That was just the sweetest and mildest mannered man you've ever wanted to see. And if you look at his face, there he is. You can tell he's just a kind and gentle soul, and yet somehow he was able to use that personality to get kids into shape. I mean, this was a crackerjack all-star man. So he wasn't a dictator, but he used, I guess, the force of love and care to make kids want to learn those songs and to do well. Well, Doc Lemon, like other teachers about his age, retired. In fact, he never even reached Asheville High School. When Stevens Lee closed, he taught at South French Broad, I believe, a year or two, and then he accepted a position at Spelman College in Atlanta. That's my hometown. Atlanta University, where he retired in 1963. Excuse me, 73. Okay, we have more alumni to look at, but first, I want to give you folks the big picture, and I'll try to make this fast because I think going over the teachers individually is the most fun. But I want you to step back with me, and I'll try to describe the big picture that Zoe and I have seen looking at the backgrounds of these teachers, their lives and careers. Well, first, all of Stevens Lee's teachers, 34 in that yearbook, were highly educated. Every one of them. They held very impressive credentials. Every teacher had earned a bachelor's degree, and this figure is really impressive. 20 out of 34 had earned a master's degree. Now, think about that. 13 had completed coursework beyond the master's. Now, how do you explain that? We heard the following from a lot of alumni. Stevens Lee had a policy that went back decades that said if you were a new hire, someone who got a job there, you had 4 years to get your master's degree, or you had to look for another job, and they hired someone in your place. I don't think they had to dismiss very many people because there were incentives and there was encouragement given. Now, I need to say, too, there was no comparable policy like that in the white schools. At Asheville High, which then became Lee Edwards and then became Asheville High School again. To our knowledge, there was not a requirement like that at that time for white teachers, but there was at Stevens Lee. Probably that requirement was established by the first principal, the original principal, or maybe the second. Walter S. Lee, and he put that policy into effect and really left his mark on the school. Okay, another thing, I'm still talking about their credentials. All the teachers did their undergraduate coursework at historically black colleges and universities. Every teacher on the faculty, all of the black people, did their work at what we call the HBCUs today. They grew up in a segregated South. Now, this should not be a puzzle. It's sad to say, but they could not attend the white universities, some people would call them the flagship universities, UNC, Chapel Hill, North Carolina State. They were prohibited from attending those schools. But they had a network of public and private schools that they could attend within the state and in other southern states. And with one exception, all of them, now getting to the teachers' college thing in just a moment, all of them had their master's degrees at major universities outside the South. Major state universities, some of them private schools as well. Institutions such as Ohio State, University of Wisconsin, University of Michigan, and most often Teachers College, Columbia University. Which raises the question, how in the world were they able to do this? Well, it's a crazy explanation, but it's about segregation. The state state of North Carolina paid for their graduate education, paid their tuition, and maybe some of their other expenses. The state made a pact, a bargain with teachers, with the black teachers, that said, if you will not push for admission to UNC, Chapel Hill, North Carolina State, and so forth, if you won't push that issue, because there were NAACP attorneys who probably would have taken the case, we'll pay for your graduate education. And wow, look at all the institutions you can attend. And Asheville at that time had very, very good train connections. So you could get on the train in Asheville, and before too long you could get off in New York City. That's where Teachers College of Columbia University is. Imagine getting off the train, Grand Central Station or Penn Station, and you're there for the summer. Had to be the summer. They took the deal, okay? And they did a great job with it. They distinguished themselves at these universities, and they impressed the faculty of Teachers College so much that's Teachers College. I'm looking at you folks, and I'm not paying attention to these, so that's why it's always good important for me. They impressed the faculty of Teachers College so much that they sent down a regular faculty member, Dr. Arthur Linden. There he is. And he impressed they impressed Dr. Linden. He came down and taught regular courses, not only during the summers here, but at other times as well, so that if you were a teacher and you were willing to spend a full summer of residency at Teachers College, during which time I imagine you could take 4 courses or so, a good chunk of your master's, that Dr. Linden came down and offered these courses for graduate credit that would help you get that master's. Now, no other university made it that convenient, and that's why Teachers College was the most popular choice among the faculty. Now, isn't that an amazing story? I just have to stop and catch my breath for just a moment. Zoe and I began to hear a little talk about this kind of thing. In fact, I heard Al Whitesides mention this. You could say it's an awful bargain that the state of North Carolina made that actually worked for the benefit of these fine teachers. Teachers College, to use the phrase that educators would use today, Teachers College adopted Asheville High School. What I think is that the teachers who went north to study from Asheville High, they adopted Stevens Lee. They didn't adopt Asheville High. Thank you all for looking at me funny. A little sip of water will help. Okay, make a long story short, these teachers from Stevens Lee were so good when they went to the north and Midwest. They were most impressive, and Arthur Linden became a teacher who came down regularly during the 40s and 50s, and the students even got to know him. I bet he guest lectured in some classes and that kind of thing. And they dedicated the 1953 yearbook to him. How about that? That's the end of the story. Let me tell you a few more patterns, though, just a couple more things. Third pattern, Stevens Lee attracted college-educated black people who were teachers from across the state, from other southern states. In fact, it appears that 20 out of 34 of the teachers in that yearbook, 64 yearbook, were not Asheville natives, and they moved here for the job. They moved here to teach. Fourth point, going quickly. We can see that some teachers made the transition to integration at Asheville High more easily than others. Can you folks believe that? And the biographies, the life stories of these teachers show that a teacher like Miss Forney, for instance, stayed there 20 years and became a real champion for integration. Other teachers, having experienced so much segregation and less than easy treatment at Asheville High School shook their heads, and especially if they were senior teachers, they retired. Now, we're going to look at some more teachers to conclude. A small number of them. I'm not going to go into the detail that I went into with the first three teachers. I'm also watching, I'm mindful of the time. The coach, how about him? You folks remember the coach? You're an alumnus, I'm sure you do. Now, he was a science teacher too, and one alumnus said, I remember him more as a science teacher. So he was sharp in the classroom, and he was legendary. Now, one thing that surprised me, he coached all three major sports: football, basketball, and baseball. This guy was a bargain, and his salary for a lot of the time he was here was less than the white coach at Asheville High School, or probably the three coaches who did his work. Now, he turned out winning teams, and he gave Doc Lemon's band something to march about. Right? He was really sharp. He was a graduate of Shaw University, born in 1908, North Carolina A&T, and also the University of Wisconsin. That's Roy's school. He had a 38-year career, and he retired from Asheville High School in 1973. So he was there for 4 years. I'd like to know more about his story and how his coaching skills fit in there at Asheville High. Maybe the panel have some insight. And just a cool thing about him, he was the owner-player of the Asheville Blues Baseball Club, which played in the Black Leagues, and I understand was a really fine, really hot team. Now, some of the athletic trophies. Miss Chappelle. She was the physical education and dance teacher who was also in charge of the majorettes. Now, those are not majorettes. She prepared the majorettes to go right along with Doc Lemon's band. I mean, they worked right together. Big hit at the football team, at football games. But she also enjoyed more serious forms of dance. Out of all the images that Zoe and I found for various teachers, this one really stands out in my mind. That is just a fantastic display. And let's see, moving along with Miss Chappelle. She was born in Mississippi in 1903. I believe she was the oldest teacher at Stevens Lee at that time, as it was about to close. 1903, graduated from North Carolina A&T. And also Teachers College, Columbia University. Right? So, she had a 41-year career in the Asheville City Schools. 41 years. Started at Livingston Street School, elementary school in 1927, and was there. I just looked at this figure this afternoon. She was there 22 years. She was an elementary teacher for 22 years. Came to Stevens Lee in 1949 and retired from South French Broad in 1968. Now, this next is nuts stuff. Now, look at that guy. I hope I choose the right words, but I'm backed up by some of the alumni. I see the Reverend here smiling at me. He told us one of the stories. Mr. Hayth was a tough guy. And see, he enjoyed that reputation, and he cultivated that reputation. Now, he was a shop teacher, and if you notice, back in those days, shop was segregated. Vocational ed was segregated, so there were cooking and culinary courses and classes for young women. The boys, the young men, took wood shop, metal shop, and then as the years went by, more sophisticated kinds of trades. But back to the idea of a tough guy, he would almost, or maybe more than almost, challenge the young men in his classes. You know, you want to take me on? You know, I'm paraphrasing here, but the phrase was, I'm going to take you into the cloakroom. I never heard whether anybody actually went in there with me, but I don't think I'd want to do that. Now, Gary McDaniel, the guy who enjoyed being in the band so much, had some strong memories of Mr. Tate in his interview with us. One day, Gary said, and he's a minister today, one day Gary said he was in a bad mood and he smarted off to Mr. Heath. And Mr. Tate looked at him and said, I am going to tell your parents, young man. And Gary had the poor judgment to say, go right ahead. So here's how that story ended. By the time Gary got home that afternoon, Mr. Tate was sitting on the front porch with his parents. Now, I'm not going to try to quote Gary exactly. And he told my parents how I had acted out. Guess what? From that point on, I never acted out again. Now listen to this next sentence. That made me wake up and say, hey, he cares about my future. He wasn't smart to smart off, but he was smart to be able to see that. And I'm sure that realization may have come to him gradually. But that is one of the hallmarks of the Stevens Lee education. You had teachers who cared about you. It was a loving, caring atmosphere. Two more teachers. Can y'all hear about two more? All right. The woman who wrote the Stevens Lee alma mater. It looks like words and music were hers. She is someone I would enjoy meeting again. I'm a very amateur musician. She was not. Now she's an example of an Asheville native, born 1912, and a Stevens Lee graduate, class of 1929. 29. One of the first graduating classes from Stevens Lee. She went away to school, Talladega College, and then returned to her hometown to teach at Stevens Lee. As the years went by, homegrown teachers, such as Reynolds, became a major source of supply for elementary schools in particular, but also for Stevens Lee. I like this story. Her husband was the principal of Livingston Street School. And the two of them said they enjoyed spending several summers in New York City. How you got there? Spending several summers working on their graduate programs. She was at Teachers College, and he was at NYU working on an administrative certification and master's degree. Our final teacher. Now there she is. You remember Miss Harrison? No, I'm running late, so I was about to get out the book and pull it off. Here's our last teacher. She has some things to say now. I was a high school English teacher too, so I can identify with her subjects. She was born in Asheville in 1911. Went off to college at Fisk. I'm sure she and Ms. Foster David Fisk versus Howard versus Fisk. Came back home to teach, first at Hill Street School, starting out as an elementary teacher, then at Stevens Lee in South French Broad, and then for 1 year, just 1 year at Asheville High School. But she put in a career of 40 years in the classroom. So she was not a short timer at all. Now, we are fortunate that we have her exact words in the form of an interview that was conducted by some UNCA people before her death in 2005. As an English teacher, she's talked a lot about the community, the sense of community that people had at Stevens Lee. And she went into a lot of detail about how black churches were part of that sense of community. And I wish the panel, if the panel chooses, would elaborate a little bit and tell us more about the involvement of ministers on campus. We know that they spoke at some commencement exercises. They probably were guest speakers in classes. And Ms. Harrison went so far to say that some principals preferred to hire teachers who were members of their own flock, of their own church. She thinks she got the job because she worshiped in the same church that her principal did. All right. Last thing I want to tell you. In this interview, she also speaks very poignantly about her experience at Asheville High School. It was not a positive one, apparently. And about what she calls the unanticipated effects of integration. Now, whereas the black teachers at Stevens Lee, she said, had inspired black students and helped them work up to their capacity, push them. White teachers at Asheville High, these are her exact words, may go out of their way, and they are not trying to hurt us, but they don't understand the hurt within us. Now, the Optimist Club honored her for her long years in the classroom and for her civic work in 1985. She's a teacher I wish I could have known among almost all of these teachers. And I will just leave it at that point. That's sort of the point of transition that this one teacher had between Stevens Lee and a world of experience in black schools before that, and then that 1 year at Asheville High School. I'm going to ask Roy to get us into the next part of the program tonight. I think it will be the best part. Joe and I putting our money on these alumni, a panel of 4 distinguished alumni. Thank you all very much.
Rev Oralene Simmons. Richard Bowman. Rev LC Ray. Thank you to Zoe and Joe what they put together. It confirms what you all have been saying. And those teachers were great. And they were an asset to Asheville, they were an asset to the community, and all the things that we hope that the teachers would be, they were. I'm just do a quick introduction to our panel here. And then I'm going to let them tell them about themselves. One of the questions I want them to answer is, tell us about one of your favorite teachers. As far as your presentation, tell us about one of your favorite teachers. And also, when it comes to, what about Black history? How did Black history play out in Stevens Lee and the teachers that you had? And so we'll get started. Have fun. Then I'll probably come back into the audience and let someone make a statement. Just let them know whether or not you're making a statement or a question. Rev Ray, you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, to great presentation that we just been blessed with. And I'm honored to give you this very fine town, my friends, across the years. I am LC Ray, Senior Minister of WC Baptist downtown, and CEO of a nonprofit for about 25 years, running the town, also downtown. I am a 1957 graduate, and I was honored to be here. Mr. Harris asked to recognize a favorite teacher. I saw 2 or 3 that I would have to say would be my favorite. Ms. Harrison was my English teacher, the last one. A very, very beautiful lady, lived not too far from here. Also, Mr. Campbell. If you read the article that was in very fine paper, Mr. Campbell was the one that threatened me. I think I was in the 10th grade. He said, boy, you're going to get it one way, otherwise I'm taking you to the cloakroom. We had a cloakroom in the school. So I would say that he was very dear to me. And Mr. Lacey, after he had retired from school, he became a minister, and I was part of his initiations and so forth. Not being a minister would say. So that is pretty much what I am. And my wife came out of Stevie 2 in 61, and I just enjoyed the great experience.
My name is Sarah. I would say Sarah Weston Hart. A lot of people don't know me as Sarah Hart because the Weston was longer than a Hart. But Stevens Lee is dear to me because I was bused from Mars Hill to Asheville. We had to get up very, very early in the morning. And our bus driver came from, he would pick up in Hot Springs, Marshall, and then come by Mars Hill. Yeah. My first year, though, I went to Allen High School, and I was the only one getting off that bus. So the summer of 1954, my very good friend asked my father, begged him all summer, if I could go to Stevens Lee. So I came to Stevens Lee in the 10th grade, and Mrs. Pierce was my teacher. And she was very, very, she taught us about, Black history, not only Black history. I have a picture of me and some more students that we were like Japanese. We were dressed, Japanese, and but she not only did Black history, but she did other things too. And I think one of my favorite teachers too, besides Ms. Pierce, was Mr. Dusenberry. He was my home teacher when I was in the 11th grade. And he told me something about my father. My father was named Marcimus, and I didn't know where. He said, do you know that that's a French name? And come find out by my father that it really, his ancestors way back did come from France. So. But Stevens Lee, as I said, has been very dear to me. I have on my Stevens Lee shirt. This is my classmate right here. And he was talking about Mr. Cowens, and a lot of you know Rev Charles Mosley. Well, my hair was all the way down my back, and Rev Mosley was picking at me. So one day, Mr. Cowens said, boy, go in the cloakroom. You have pestered her long enough, so he would take you in the cloakroom. But as he said, I am president of the Alumni Association, and I want everybody to know, if you ever So I was gone for 22 years, and I came back in 2007, and well, before that, I came back a lot of times because this is my 40th shirt that I have on, and 2 years ago, we celebrated our 60th class reunion. But as I look at when I came back at the Stevens Lee alumni and what we're all about, it really, I guess, hurt me sometimes because I see like 1, 2, 3, 4 members that are really come to our alumni meetings and help us. We have like 8 or 10 members that, really come to help us. And what we do, we give scholarships. We give $3,000 scholarships. We give 2 $500 scholarships to, if they want to go to AB Tech, and 8 schools in Buncombe and Madison County. They will give us a name, and we will give them the senior $50. So that's what we're all about, and I hope, as I said, sometimes we want to give up, right, Freddie?
Oh, yes.
Sometimes we want to give up because there's just a few of us. But I said, as long as I'm able, and as long as I said, because Stevens Lee is here to me, getting up, coming 17 miles on that bus, 2-lane road, that as long as I can, I'm going to support it.
And I'm Richard Bowman, graduate of Stevens Lee, class of 1951. To me, Stevens Lee is the gift that keeps on giving. It started giving to me as I was a freshman at Stevens Lee. And my favorite teacher, I think you wanted to know, is Dr. Madison C. Leonard. He taught me to play the clarinet. And that led to opened so many doors for me. Not only did I play in the high school band, clarinet and saxophone, but also the college band at Tuskegee. And upon leaving Tuskegee, in France, one of the officers there had a son that was taking clarinet lessons, but he didn't have anyone who was ever teaching, so he asked me if I would. I didn't feel I was good enough to teach anyone to play clarinet. But anyway, I was able to help him practice on it. Not only that, but since retiring, I decided to go back to music. And for the last 20 years, I've been playing in the Asheville community band, right here. Again, I have not done anything for that. If I had to have a backup favorite teacher, I would say Mr. Duesenberg, our French teacher. I took 2 years of French. Wondering why would I need to take 2 years of French? And actually spoke French with Mr. Duesenberg, and we had a few people in class that thought they spoke it. A few years later, I got my permission. When they sent me first to Germany and then to France, and I had some workers that didn't speak English, some French workers that did not speak English, and that French really came in handy. Of course, when I first got to France, I was a little embarrassed because I went to have dinner at a restaurant, and I knew I could speak French when Mr. Duesenberg taught me. The waitress came over, and I told her, learn well about the Kool-Aid. And in perfect English said, you can speak English if you like. But I want to started off, Carver Woodson started off with Black History Week, and then we went on with Black History Month, because so much of our history is not in the history book, and it still isn't in the history book. And that's why I'm so glad that we're working now to get some history of Asheville into the book. Just to share you a little bit about my parents. They moved up here from Rutherford, North Carolina, to get a better job. And how did they find out about Asheville? My dad found out about it because of slavery. My great-grandparents had to come up here with the masters to sell things. And he said that they told him about the trips up, and they told him that the thing that they hated worse was coming up the mountains, because they had to get out and walk up the mountain because they didn't want the horses to get tired. But they survived, and they left so much for us. And for the last 25 years since retiring, I've been mentoring in Asheville City and Buckley County schools. And 5 years ago, I said it was my last year. I'm saying this year is probably my last year. But every time I go in the classroom and see what these kids are going through, it makes me, it stops me from stopping. Because, and you see so many things influence, because we're talking about the gap. And you can see so many things that are causing the gap. There's no one thing. So that's a different story. I have my own opinions about that I'd love to share with someone sometime, but I don't want to share it. Thank you.
I'm Oralene Simmons, President of the North Community Association of Asheville and Logan County. And it has been the pleasure of our association to help plan this tribute and also to co-sponsor this activity with the library. Very, very proud. And also for Michael Dempsey, the person that's from the board that chaired our program, for connecting us with the library so that we could be a part of this great event, and looking forward to it continuing with more and new and different things about Stevens Lee and the faculty that we all loved so much. The faculty were really our role models. It was that we were a very close-knit community with the teachers knowing so many of our parents, attending church with us. So we all had a very close relationship. For my favorite teachers, Lucy Harrison was one of them. She was my English teacher, and I very much loved to read books. And I became a member of the Literary Club and the Canterbury Club. As a matter of fact, I was president of the Canterbury Club, and she was our advisor. And I just loved her stories about faraway places and the books that we read and about their customs. The other teacher would be Gladys Pierce. Not only was she my teacher, but she was my big sister, because we, for some reason, I don't know why, we just became very close friends. And I would go home with her to Wilmington for vacations, particularly on Easter. And I would go go to the Williston High School during my stay there, because it was a high school, and it was one of the high schools that we competed against in athletic sports. We had this relationship that was not so much the teacher and the student. We were the same size, so we wore each other's clothes. we could wear the same shoes. We shared a lot of secrets that I have sworn that I would never ever tell anybody. I will say one that I think probably decent, and I could tell it. One day she said for me to come out of another teacher's classroom, and she gave me this little brown paper bag, and she said, "Take this in the closet and put some cigarettes in it for me." I know you guys. She said, and here, take this money, and at lunchtime go down to Chisholm's store and get you a pack and replace them with. I gotta go smoke yours in the lounge right now. She told me about financing and banking. Again, it was like I was kind of her errand person. She had me to ask the principal, Mr. Belton, if I could go to the bank because she had just received her check and she wanted me to deposit money in her savings in her checking account. And Mr. Belton said, "Well, you tell her if she has money to put in the bank, yes, you can be excused to go to the bank." And so I went to the bank and carried all the directions, and I gave it to the banker. And when I got back, she told me that I had to go back to the bank. She said they had shorted her $200. She said, "Go back to the bank and you tell them to make this right." And I did. And it was right. So that was my beginning of her teaching me about banking, saving money, the difference between the saving and the banking account, and setting goals.
Thank you.
Before you go, I don't know how I could have forgotten to. Zoe has been, I don't know how she got in touch with me, but she did, and I'm glad she did. I have told my story. She's having me write a book. I've told my story, but I just want to say personally thank you. And I didn't tell anything about myself. I guess only I was gone, but I taught school. I taught Randolph. Those of you that are old here, you remember Randolph. I taught at Randolph for 13 years. I graduated from Marshall College. Then I went to Virginia for 22 years. I went to Virginia for 22 years, and I taught up there. In all, I had 32 years of teaching. And then I got my master's degree from George Mason University, and then I came back home in 2007. So, Zoe, really.
The next question I have for panelists is, how much emphasis was there on Black history? And all of you are great in your own rights. Rev Ray has been a pastor here in Western North Carolina, I guess since he was almost a teenager. President of Baptist Ministry Jewish, and then he has a doctoral degree from Shaw University and those kind of things. You have gone gave prayer. She stood by it all those years. And everything. And I think, would you tell us how Stevens Lee helped you to do that? How did all of it? What was it? Not only about the teachers, but the whole atmosphere of here that would help you believe that you could do those things?
Yes, and then I go back to Gladys Pierce and Miss Harrison. I was a student at Stephen Lee High School, and I became a member of ASCORA, the Asheville Youth Council on Racial Equality, and helped to integrate many of the public facilities here in Asheville. This was during the Civil Rights era. And we took training to learn how to conduct ourselves in a nonviolent way to prepare us for integration. And it had been my dream since I was a little girl to go home once I finished high school. I so loved Morrisville. I had lived there with my grandmother, and I just couldn't think of being anywhere else. So I wanted to go home. I applied for an application from Morrisville College, and I remember it was Mrs. Harrison and the principal, Mr. Belton, that helped me complete my application and to do a resume. The first time I'd ever done a resume. So they helped me to compose a resume and to also say that I wanted to go into a field that I really didn't want to go. But they thought it would look pretty on the application. If I said that I wanted to be a school teacher, and when I received my degree from Morrisville, that I would teach other children of my race. And so evidently it helped because I said that somebody did give me a scholarship. But it was Miss Harrison that asked me to make the real test to ask them if I could stay on campus as a resident, because I was accepted as a day student, and I lived with my grandmother, and that was the hardship of going back and forth every day in the rain and carrying all these books and gym clothes and everything. And so I came over here to the school, and I talked with Miss Harrison and Miss Pierce about it, and Miss Harrison said, you go back and you tell them that you want a room on campus. And I did. And they did give me that room on campus. And that's another whole story in a book. But yes, they were very supportive of me and really helped. Mr. Belton even had me to go to the office to get stamps to put on the application to mail to the school.
Rev Ray, could you stay here with us?
Yes, well, appreciate that. The reason I say that, I think I shared not, I mean, it's very quick to come back to our panelists. Some of my friends wanted me to do certain things, but I had some white friends that I did New York work, and they really wanted me to go over to, down south, to one of the black colleges in Asheville NC. So my mom and I allowed me to do it. I had a real Christian role model. So That stopped me there, but I had other opportunities, and those opportunities were great. But allow me, Mr. Harris, let me say this, and I think it would be good for the history there too. We brought Shaw University here, an off-campus program in 80, and I was the first director there. And some of the teachers, Ms. Warner was one key. She sat down with me because we were looking for instructors. We picked up about 3 or 4 from UNCA, had about, I told about 23. Ms. Forney and Mr. Von Burden and a few others, they were part of that selection there. So I think that is very good for history too, because Shaw University played a great role here. Dr. John White was the one that recommended me down at Shaw in Raleigh. He would be the very good director there. But I had so much support from the faculty at Lonnie. Burden was very great. Logan Delaney, these men, they worked very faithfully with us, and that pretty much brought me into very strong leadership, not only here in Western North Carolina, but it placed me in certain places as Boyd Bell Baptist preacher, in Raleigh, Mr. Harrison, and other places.
Ms. Hart?
As I said, Miss Pierce would always, well, my Black history started in Mars Hill at my school, two-room school, which is now a Rosenwald school, but our teachers would teach us about the Blacks. We had books that was handed down, so they knew about the Blacks, so it started there. And then when I came to Allen, they, Ms. Walker, Mr. Worrell, all of them, they really, instilled, even though we were, all Black there, but they really instilled in us how Black history was important to us. And when I came here, as I said, Ms. Pierce was the one that I can remember doing a lot and introducing me to, doing a lot of Black history for the students. Because I remember 2 projects that I had to do on, Black.
Well, whenever I picked up the history book at Stevens Lee, I didn't find any Black history in it. The only Black history I can remember was reading a book that had just a little teeny bit of Black history. And it was about Chief Justice R.B. Taylor. Whenever he said the Negro has no rights whatsoever. This is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. But that has stuck in my mind for all these years. And I think about all the other bits of Black history, the positive things of Black history. And I'll always be thankful for having Black History Week and Black History Month, because we did get a little bit then, of Black history. And I can't thank you enough again for what you're doing to give us more Black history that we can look at. Because a lot of things that, we never know. This is something I thought over 15 years ago. It's an old Ash show. And when I read it, I think I was on quite a few years ago, 15 years ago. And one of the pictures here is a picture of the actual police department and the actual fire department. And underneath, they have a card explaining each one of the pictures. And they mentioned most of the members of the actual police department and the actual fire department were members of the KKK. So it made me wonder,
person is the leader of education in Asheville right now. Dr. Denise Patterson came in the room, and I invited her because I wanted her to hear this. Even though it's some 50 years ago or 35 years ago. Now, Pastor, could you come up front for a moment?
Great student to
It is indeed an honor and pleasure to be here tonight, and I'm glad I was able to hear those wonderful stories. I think those African American leaders, which they were in the schools and in the community, they really paved the way for us, and I think what they have taught us is still alive today, and that's been obvious through your stories and through the passion that you shared tonight. So I do appreciate all of that, and it's very near and dear to me. It gave me new insight in learning about Asheville. I was back there as you were talking, still doing some research on my phone, because it was very interesting. I'm still in that era of, let's see what it is that's going on still. But I think that was very rich of you to share that information, and do know that all that you have said has been taken seriously. And I do appreciate your educational values that you have brought to the community, and that you are still here to share the stories. So thank you for leading the way and still holding true to all that you learned at the schools here in Asheville.